Poor people. Lazy, right? Wrong. Today, we're going to debunk 5 common and super wrong myths about poverty in the US. Myth 1. Poor people are just lazy. If they worked harder, they wouldn't be poor. Sure, let's just generalize every poor person and blame them for the systemic and institutional barriers that contribute to their poverty. Okay, let's bust this myth. The majority of Americans in poverty actually work 1 or more jobs, and nearly 6 million Americans currently working part-time jobs wish they had full-time jobs. Oh, and who caused the massive job losses of the Great Recession of 2008? Hint, hint, not poor people. Not to mention, since the 1970s, wages have basically stagnated, while life has gotten much more expensive. Also, we should probably keep in mind that 35% of the poor who don't work are actually children, the elderly, and the disabled, people who often can't work. Sorry, little Susie, being 3 isn't an excuse. Myth 2. If poor people just laid off the booze and drugs, they wouldn't be poor. I'm gonna let my friend Trey handle this one.
Look, it's not like using drugs turns you poor. If that happened, then half of Hollywood would be living in a cardboard box. Drug and alcohol abuse is an issue for some poor people, but it's not a major cause of poverty. In the past few years, several states, including my home state of Tennessee, have actually implemented a system of drug testing for welfare applicants exactly because of this stereotype, and guess what they found? Across the board, they found that applicants living at or below the poverty line actually have a lower rate of drug use than the population at large. Turns out drugs are expensive. Who knew? So it's not helping anybody, and it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Hey, here's an idea. Maybe we should start drug testing the rich people who come up with these laws in the first place. Oh wait, that's right. The Supreme Court has already ruled that it's literally unconstitutional to drug test members of Congress and applicants for political office, because that makes sense.
Myth 3. If poor people just studied harder and went to college, they'd be fine. Look, I'm all for working hard and going to college, but education isn't a poverty cure-all. The biggest problem is that in this country, public schools are largely funded by local taxes, which means high poverty districts have less money to spend per student than wealthier districts. 15.6% less, in fact. So poor neighborhoods have poorer schools, which means lower rates of success for poor students, making it much tougher to succeed. And let's not forget that the overall cost of college has increased 1,120% since 1978. And a degree doesn't mean you'll be rolling in dough. Poor people face so many educational hurdles, saying college, college, college isn't really helpful. Thanks for trying, though. Myth 4. Most poor people are the blacks in the inner city.
Okay, no. Most poor people in the U.S. aren't black. Actually, most poor people in the U.S. look, and a lot of them sound, like me. I mean, it's true that the rate of poverty for black people in America is disproportionately higher, but the actual number of poor people, way more white people. Part of the reason the stereotype persists is because anytime poor people are presented in the media, it's usually poor black people in the cities. And this stereotype sucks for everybody. Black people are made out to be something that they're really not, and poor white people aren't cared about at all. Or the only time a camera ever shows up in places where I'm from is if they're there to film an episode of Cops.
So basically the media is racist and classist. What else is new? Myth 5. Being poor in America is better than being poor anywhere else. Okay, now try to follow along. Just because poverty is bad somewhere else doesn't mean being poor in America is good. There are 1.5 million American households living on less than $2 per person a day. That's below the global extreme poverty line. 13 million children in America live in households that lack the means to get enough nutritious food on a regular basis. And they live much shorter lives.
Guess what? Being poor just sucks, no matter where you live.
The important thing to remember here is that being poor is not a moral failing. It doesn't mean you're any less hardworking or any less deserving of reaching your dreams. And maybe the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can start finding better ways to pull people out of poverty. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Decoded. And special thanks to Trey Crowder, otherwise known as the Liberal Redneck, for helping out.